Fred Shee, designer of the famous 500 class mountain type locomotives, drew up plans to construct a 282 wheel arrangement locomotive for the South Australian Railways motive power fleet. 10 of this class were built at Armstrong Whitworth's factory in the United Kingdom, and they were introduced to service in September 1926. Fitted with Walschaerts valve gear, the highly successful locomotives were powerful and had a maximum speed of 72 km an hour or 45 miles per hour due to the size of their driving wheels, which proved more suitable for hauling freight. The 700s had a total weight of 171 tonnes, a length of just over 22 metres and a working boiler pressure of 200 pounds per square inch. Developments of these locomotives also led to the introduction of the 720 class, a massive design which included the American Berkshire wheel arrangement. There was also another variant of the 700s produced, but we will get to those shortly. Class leader number 700 was the last remaining example still in operational condition, from the first batch numbered from 700 to 709. Some brief write-ups on the description of the locomotives include the following. The boiler barrel of the 700s was constructed to a telescopic design, which included a round-top firebox, with the brick arch being placed on arch tubes in the locomotive's firebox. The inner firebox was made of copper, and the regulator for admitting steam to the cylinders was a poppet type, and the fitting of a pilot valve in the dome of the locomotive. Safety valves on top of the boiler came in the form of muffled Rospop ones. The 700 class's smoke box was designed for self-cleaning, a common feature that appeared on many steam locomotives across the United Kingdom. The American influence also came down to the design of the cylinders, with the steam chest and half of the saddle being cast as one piece. Pressure relief valves were also fitted to the cylinders. Other features that were incorporated in the locomotive's design included a Detroit hydrostatic lubricator, Franklin grease box lubricators. The locomotive's frames came from the USA and were constructed by the Baldwin Locomotive Company, and they were of the cast steel bar design. The headlight on the front of the locomotive was a Pyle National type. At one stage there was talk of fitting the 700 class with mechanical stokers, due to the work on the locomotives being extreme for one fireman to handle on his own. Despite this, the engines stayed as hand-firing engines until they were withdrawn from service in the 1960s. The route availability of the class was greater compared with the heavier locomotives on the SAR, but some lines never saw the use of the 700s, including those such as the railway to Sedan, which branched off from the main line at Monarto South. In later years, some of the class were fitted with coal pushers located in the tender, a feature that was used on the London, Midland and Scottish Railways Duchess Pacifics in the United Kingdom. The class was so successful that an improved version known as the 710s were introduced to service from the late 1920s, and these could be seen on a wide variety of duties, again mainly hauling freight. Constructed by the South Australian Railways at their Islington workshops between 1928 and 1929, 10 of the 710 class were built and were numbered from 710 through to 719. Coal supplies became an issue during the Second World War, so a few of the locos were modified to burn oil. However, after the war ended, they were converted back to burn coal. The last run of this class took place in the late 1960s, before all examples were withdrawn from service, and unfortunately none of this batch of locomotives survived into preservation. These photos were taken during the final years of service on the South Australian Railways, with several tours and revenue-earning services being worked by this highly successful locomotive type. Again, the 710s were extremely similar to the 700s. The 710s at this time were still seen working through the Adelaide Hills, and fortunately enthusiasts such as David Beck were on hand to capture the action. Compared with the 700s, the 710s had boosters fitted. A booster for a steam locomotive consists of a two-cylinder steam engine, which enables the loco to begin hauling a heavy train in demanding conditions. David Beck captured these superb photos of 718 working a tour from Adelaide to Tailem Bend, and is seen at Blackwood, Belair, Murray Bridge, and finally at its destination, where a much older RX loco would take over for the remainder of the tour. The 710s had a firebox grate area of 47 square feet, a boiler pressure of 200 pounds per square inch, which was the same as the earlier 700s, and 2 outside cylinders. One of the last examples of the 700s was the Class Leader, which again hauled enthusiast tours before it was condemned and unfortunately scrapped. Roger Currie captured this spectacular image of 700 working a rail tour in its final years of service. After being withdrawn from service and condemned in July 1964, 702 became the only member of the 700 class to survive into preservation. It was first displayed at the Mile End Railway Museum, which was established by the Australian Railway Historical Society South Australian Division. Here it stood for a number of years before it and all the exhibits were transferred to the site of a new museum at the former railway station at Port Adelaide. Today, 702 remains on display at the National Railway Museum and is presented in immaculate condition, along with a huge collection of steam locomotives dating back over 100 years.